Vehicles are one of the biggest selling points of Battlefield 6. All-out warfare across infantry, ground vehicles, and air vehicles. Nothing feels better than getting into an awesome tank fight and winning, or rolling around a point and holding it down with your entire crew. You don't get to play vehicles the entire time, but when you do, it's such an awesome gameplay loop. But they can be tricky to master, so in this video today, I want to help you understand how to get the most success using both the main battle tank and vehicle transport. In another video, I'll discuss helicopters and planes, though. I'm just not the best at those. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos. So let's break some of this down. The biggest thing you need to know is that both armored vehicles have two different ammo types for the main gun, a primary and a secondary. At the start, these will be set, but as you unlock more mastery, you can swap them to do more damage to armored vehicles, infantry, or even air vehicles. The key is understanding when to switch to another ammo type that will help you against certain targets. For example, I have high explosive and armor piercing rounds. So I use one for infantry and one for tanks. Also, you want to know that you will automatically replenish both health and ammo while out on the battlefield, but you'll only recover about 60% or so ammo. For example, tanks start with 8 tank rounds, and you will recover 1 round every 10 seconds up to 5, meaning once you leave the base, you'll never recover beyond 5 rounds unless you go to a vehicle resupply depot. Another crucial point is understanding critical damage states. If you look down at the vehicle's health bar, you'll see 2 blips. The last one is the critical damage state. Your tank won't repair above that blip unless you manually do it, and it'll typically stop moving. And it'll slowly repair to the second blip if it's above that critical damage point. This is crucial to understanding how your vehicle will auto repair if need be. Lastly, I like to use the engineer when using any kind of vehicle, even if you haven't unlocked their additional training path, just for the ability to repair the vehicle when you're in a pinch. But that's too long, didn't watch this entire video. I'm going to talk about vehicle loadout options, understanding damage, and other key facts. But if that's all you want to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. You can navigate to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters with the timeline in the description. And if you are heading out, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. Lastly, don't forget to check me out on Twitch, where I play Battlefield and a number of other games. Let's get started on why you're using tanks wrong, a guide and deep dive for Battlefield 6. Before we actually dive into the tank, let's really quickly look at engineer. And this is what I was saying in the intro here, is that I like to use the engineer when I'm playing with a tank or really any kind of situation. The big thing here is mechanized infantry for engineer, because I can jump out of my tank if I'm completely alone, or my armored infantry vehicle, and repair it, and the enemy can't get in as long as I'm repairing it. So that's just an important thing to know. You get thermal overdrive eventually. Devastating impacts, you can actually pop out and shoot something with a rocket launcher and jump back into your tank if you're maybe an additional engineer helping out a tank, whatever. Now, of course, the big thing is we want to get to training path combat engineer. I don't know, I think I was close to. I've been gone the whole weekend, so it's kind of fucked up my progression here. Yeah, cool, great, cool, great. But either way, combat engineer gets us two really important things. Overheat control. Heat buildup on gadgets and vehicles weapons is 50% slower. And then vehicle regeneration. This is huge. Occupy a vehicle to start regenerating its health. Will activate if it is above its critical damage state. Remember I said in the intro, right? That's the last blip of the 2 blips, the leftmost blip. So this allows you to free up a whole entire equipment slot on your vehicles, which we'll talk about next. But that's what I really like. Your last little thing I do want to talk about too is the gadget. This supply crate here, a pallet that resupplies ammunition and speeds up equipment cooldowns for nearby friendly vehicles. So I'm going to talk about the gameplay style of a tank and how really one of the best ways to play a tank is the way that tanks are usually used in the real world, which is not thundering through cities and just blowing up walls and stuff like that. That's just a really fucking fun way to play. But you drop one of these down next to the tank that you're using, and you're going to resupply your ammunition. You're going to speed up your equipment cooldowns, and you can just constantly be in a defensive state in your tank with one of these just right behind you. It's a real great boon to have. So for our actual loadouts, we're going to talk about the MBT and the IFV. The anti-air loadouts we'll kind of very quickly go into, but they're really not that different. They really don't matter a whole ton. You're just always going to be pretty applicable with everything. So the first one we'll talk about, though, is going to be the MBT. And I'm going to do these 4 in their own video. As you can see, my mastery with them is very low. And one thing too I want to bring up, people have brought up in some of my other videos regarding this. I have played open betas, I've played lab testing. So this is the launch account that I've got. I obviously lost the progression with everything else. So I've played with a lot of this stuff, even though it does say unlocked. Just be mindful of that. If I talk about it, I'm not just blowing smoke up my own ass. So with the MBT, we get access to some very nice different rounds, and both slots in your primary and your alternate ammo will be the same for the MBT. So it won't matter, but we'll talk about both. We're going to get 5 different rounds. You start off with the multi-purpose round here, which is just a high explosive shell. It's great for everything. It's not as awesome though against infantry. It's just not going to do the best damage because you have to really hit them like within 5 meters. It's really not the best. Then though, we get the armor piercing shell. You'll unlock this first. You get this very quickly. So you'll be able to then swap your ammo. So if you were going to look at this from a PC perspective, I'm not in the game right now, so I don't know the ability on a controller. 1 is your primary. 2 is your secondary. 3 is your equipment slot. 4 is your alternate ammo. You might want to swap those in your buy-ins if that bothers you, but alternate ammo is huge, and you probably have it unlocked and you've probably never even used it. Armor piercing rounds are huge. You can pop a tank in like 3 rounds, 2 rounds, depending on how everything kind of shakes itself out, how the damage in that tank already exists. With the multi-purpose, it takes like 4 or 5 really. So the armor piercing shell does a considerable amount of damage increase, and you'll be able to swap to that when you really need it. Now the other 2 are focused more on anti-personnel. So the first one here is an anti-personnel shell, a shell designed to target infantry at short to medium ranges. It is basically, it shoots a bunch of pellets. It's a canister round. It is a shotgun. So this can be nice. I just never really find the application outside of just outright using a high explosive shell. This is basically launching a much bigger explosion than your multi-purpose round. And because that large fragmentation radius, you'll basically always knock out infantry. It just gives me a lot better application versus anti-personnel. I need things to be visually, I have to be able to see where they are. I have to be in a short to medium range, and that medium range is really not that medium. This just gives me a wider threat range. So my ideal setup here is a high explosive primary and then an armor piercing secondary. Your last shell is your aim guided shell, which is very good. An effective anti-vehicle shell that can be guided to target via a weapon's crosshairs. So you shoot this and you use the crosshairs to direct it, but it can lock on if you have a laser designator or tracer dart. I like this one. It just really depends on the map. There are Operation Manhattan Bridge. There's just too much obstruction. I'm gonna hit something stupid. There's buildings in the way. You're on tight packed streets. I don't like this on that map. But if I'm playing on the one that's like a big oil refinery, this is great because I have a big open map to take advantage of. So I like the aim guided shell, but it requires 2 things: map knowledge as well as openness, as well as then the second thing, laser designators or tracer darts. Those things amplify the effectiveness of this thing, and it does do a ton of damage. I think 2 of these will pop a tank. I've not done enough playstyle with them to know off the top of my head, because honestly, I enjoy the playstyle of armor piercing rounds. It's how I've played tanks for so long in the Battlefield series. So it really plays with how I like to play, which is a lot more aggression, a lot more moving back and forth. So if you'd want, you'd swap this, you'd swap your armor piercing round for the aim guided if you'd want to play that kind of sticky game there. Now with our secondary, we have the choice between the coaxial light machine gun or heavy machine gun. My opinion here is, the heavy machine gun it's great. It does do long range and it can damage unarmored vehicles like your Humvees. But the light machine gun, I just want it to kill infantry, and it does it very well. The range on the light machine gun is not as far as the heavy machine gun, but the heavy machine gun, in my opinion, it just burns out too quickly when I have a main battle tank gun turret to worry about. My cannon is what I care about the most. I'm switching to LMGs to blow up more often than not mines more than anything else. The heavy machine gun is great. I just prefer the LMG because I like the that it doesn't overheat as quick. When you get combat engineer, go HMG. That you'll be able to get about the exact same amount of uptime. So play how you want with one of these, but that's my take on the LMG versus HMG on the main turret. It's different for our gunner. Now for our equipment here, remember how I said, oh no, that's in the upgrade section, sorry. Equipment here, we've got 3 different options: thermal blocking, projectile intercept, and emergency repair. I don't like emergency repair because I honestly find that I'm in situations enough where people want to repair my tank. I can repair my tank. I'm playing with a friend almost all the time that I'm in a tank, and he can repair my tank. So emergency repair is really good if you know you're going to be playing solely solo. You know people don't really like to hang around your tank and repair you. That's when emergency repair really comes to the fore. But the other two are just so crucial to the defense of the tank, and I think they outlast the effectiveness of a emergency repair, because you have thermal blocking, which is different than projectile intercept. So thermal blocking discharges a cloud of thermal smoke that obscures the vehicle, disrupts the guidance system of incoming lock-on missiles, and blocks the ability to spot targets and clears spotted markers. So if you're locked on, boom, you hit the thermal blocking smoke. Cool. They can't target you. You have gotten cleared of painted targets, anything like that, and it helps support your team. Thermal blocking is really good. There's also, though, projectile intercept, which works differently than thermal blocking. So projectile intercept will destroy anything that is en route after you've activated it, that is a missile, a shell from another tank, rockets, grenades, and bombs. So the application is wider, but it has less overall utility to the team. And furthermore, you really kind of have to be Johnny on the spot with pressing this. You hear the lock on, or you see a tank's turret coming in, or you see a tank is locked on you, you got to pop this thing, and then it will do what it's supposed to do. If you don't know the tank very well, just stick with thermal blocking. It's really strong because not only will it knock, well, not necessarily knock, but it'll stop those missiles that are locked on to you from actually hitting you. It'll give you some obfuscation. I slurred my way through that word. It'll block you enough so that you can actually get out of the situation a little bit easier. I've used the tank a lot. I'm very comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with the reaction time needed for projectile intercept. I think projectile intercept overall helps me more when I'm playing the tank because I play very aggressive and on the move, versus thermal blocking. You pop that smoke and you should hopefully be ducking into a cover away from where that smoke was so that you're not getting continued tank shots or what have you. So this is a bit of a dealer's choice. Are you comfortable enough with your maneuvering and playing of the tank that you can be Johnny on the spot with your projectile intercept, or do you need that kind of additional time that thermal blocking buys you? It's going to come down to you and your comfort with the tank. Now, your upgrade is what I was talking about when I was talking about combat engineer. Field maintenance enables faster vehicle health recovery after taking damage. Will also gain ammo sooner and faster. So this does help you out, in that it's going to go from 10 seconds to repair ammo down to, I believe, 8 seconds, unless they've changed that. So it's a 20% faster ammo recovery, which is really good. If you're a combat engineer, you basically get the front half of this already. I don't find that ammo is a big enough of a draw for me to take that if I'm a combat engineer. If not, then I don't worry about it. I just go ahead and take it. But I want you to know how important enhanced loading is. It's going to take you about 5 or 6 seconds to reload your gun after you shoot a shell. With enhanced loading, it takes 3 or 4 seconds. So that is a huge increase on your ability to put shells down range. If you get involved in a tank fight, if you two are just to stand face to face shooting shells, you win because you have enhanced loading. Typically, in a tank fight, the first person to hit the other person wins, because it more often than not is just going to come down to trading shells if no one's repairing you in a vacuum, But this allows you to just get so many more shells onto the target, especially if you're using armor piercing. They probably won't be able to react fast enough. It is so good. Enhanced loading, I think, is the best upgrade in my personal opinion and the way I like to play tanks. And reinforced plating, though, is really good. So the downside, though, is that you lose speed and acceleration, and the tank is not fast enough to really sacrifice those. You get maybe an additional hit or two, depending on what is hitting you, out of reinforced plating. So I don't like the sacrifice, but I do like how this can be used. If you are playing on maps where you can sit back and actually bomb things from deep because you don't have a ton of buildings in your way, reinforced plating is nice because it prevents people from being able to just kind of swarm you with missiles, and you have the capability to either have someone pocket repairing you, or you can repair in those tight pinch situations. When you are in, a map with a ton of movement, it's harder to pull that off because of the fact that you're dealing with so much more movement. Optimized handling. This allows you to Tokyo drift around corners. Vehicle turn rate and aiming speed. it's, again, I'd rather have enhanced loading any time. So those are our upgrades. Our gunner here, I like heavy machine gun. Light machine gun just not as effective. You've already got one, and the grenade launcher is too short range. It's suffered through like 4 different battlefields. It's just really not that great. But definitely go with the HMG on this one. And then for our ability, once you get countermeasures, use countermeasures, because it detects mines in C4. That is huge, because mines, 2 mines will kill you, and 1 mine will disable you. So if you can at least see those mines, it is massive. It is so strong. Once you get it, you want that unlocked immediately. Having a gunner in your gunner seat will then allow you to see any mines. Smoke walls is just fine when you get it, because you start off with this. It's a great defensive capability to use, but you just want countermeasures because it guarantees that you can see those mines. Let's jump over to our other tank now. So one thing to consider with our infantry fighting vehicle, our IFV, is, and this is true of the MBT, is that you have loadouts, right? So maybe choose a loadout that has your high explosive and your other weapon, and then switch over to another one. Try out a different set of loadouts if you so wish, or you have a loadout for a different style of map. Use these loadouts to the best of your ability because they will really help you out. So with the IFV, we have different loadouts for the primary and secondary. It's high explosive, anti-personnel, and then armor piercing. The anti-personnel is exact same as it is for the tank, so it's a buckshot. I don't like it as much. Armor piercing is, again, exactly as it was for the tank. The high explosive round is a lesser damaging version of the tank's round. You can see this is an APDS round. It's the same one that the tank has. This one, I think, is a different round. This allows you to shoot more of these. They're a lower caliber. They don't really do damage to anything with sizable armor or another IFV. You'll just be like clipping little bits of damage away from them. This will actually enable you to have a larger threat range into tanks. It's pretty scary. But I don't know if you take armor piercing in your primary. I think you just keep high explosive, because our secondary here is aim guided, lock guided, or light rockets. Aim guided works just like the tank's aim guided. You use your crosshairs to lock onto the target. Well, you use your crosshairs to guide the missile into the target. It's a tow missile, which has a cool little wire that kind of shoots out with it. Those things are super cool if you know what they actually are like. Lock guided, though, is you lock onto the target and then launch your missile. So it will do more damage. It just requires a lock on. And it can be intercepted, of course, by countermeasures, versus the aim guided cannot. You can just direct it in. Lastly, though, we get the same rockets that the helicopter has, so you can launch a whole ton of rockets. I've been doing testing between light rockets and aim guided. It just kind of depends on what you're feeling, honestly. I don't like lock guided because there's so many ways to knock it out of the air. I like aim guided because it gives me a little bit more flexibility. Both can be enhanced by, of course, tracer darts and any kind of tracer capability like painting targets. Light rockets is like hellfire. I'm launching just tons of missiles out there, and those rockets are going to do damage, and they are effective against everything, less effective against tanks. The aim guided does more damage to tanks. So I look at this secondary thing as I want to use that secondary to pop tanks open. So that's why I like aim guided. Another way you can approach this, though, is go light rocket for your secondary, and your primary is armor piercing. Then you can do damage to everything and light, but it's just a little bit more hectic. So go with your flexibility and your comfortability with the IFV. Have you been using it a ton? Are you fine with moving, running, and gunning? Try out light rockets and go with armor piercing. I think you might really like how that plays. But if you're brand new into it, go something simple with aim guided and high explosive. And it's probably what I've used the most on IFV, and it's a super rewarding experience, because you can just threaten to everything in just different ways, a little bit more active, versus the other one has a lot more locking on and what have you. So those are our primary and secondary for IFV. Our equipment slot we get 2 this time around. Smoke generator, which is the same thing as the thermal blocking, kind of. No, it's not. I don't know why I said that. You basically have a roving smoke grenade. You pop it and you run, and you just create a huge smoke wall. That is how this works. Versus thermal blocking is you pop a thermal smoke that then does the same thing it does for the tank. So it clears any of your incoming missiles, it gets rid of painted, anything like that, so you can get out of a sticky situation. I've been playing around with smoke generator because our equipment 2 slot is different. I think, honestly, I like thermal blocking more. I think smoke generators, it's the first one you get access to. It's nice to help the team out. But thermal blocking also helps the team out, and I think it helps you out better, in my opinion. Emergency repair can be useful here because the IFV doesn't have a ton of health, so you can take some pretty scary damage pretty quickly. If you're not using a combat engineer, this actually can be useful over the thermal blocking versus a tank, which can take more punishment before needing to repair, in my opinion. So I'd go thermal blocking if I had it unlocked. I would maybe take emergency repair if I found like I was really getting a lot of punishment and having to deal with stuff, but thermal blocking is pretty much where I'd hang out. And I've played a lot of vehicle play, so I'm saying things that I like to play, but please, always, guys, flex around to the stuff that makes the most sense for your playstyle and how you approach playing vehicles in this game. Now, you've got two different types of sensors here. Am I on the wrong loadout? I swear to God, I didn't have this one set like that. You've got threat detector, and then you've got counter-fire radar. So counter-fire radar is when activated, the source of incoming damage is spotted, marking their position in world and on the minimap. Conversely, detects enemy soldiers and vehicles and shows them on the minimap for a short duration. I like threat detector more because I can use this as I rove into a location, pop this thing. It gives me a lot more sight on what my immediate threats are. Counter-fire radar is good, and it is nice to see where things are coming from, but I feel like I quickly find those things regardless. So I don't feel like this is wasted. I just feel like threat detector helps me out more to detect everything. Because if someone has C4, I can't see them because they're going to come onto my tank and plop C4 onto it. And I can't see it through counterfire radar because counterfire radar is only incoming damage. This is everything within my radius. So I get more application out of threat detector because it helps find things that are sneaking up on me. It could be an engineer going to drop mines behind me that I didn't see. It could be someone on my flanks that hasn't launched a rocket yet. It could be a recon going to slap me up with some C4. That's a term I'm going to now create. It could be a vehicle around a corner. Something that just gives me a lot more sight on the battlefield and I think helps me out and is more applicable than the times where I'm taking damage where I have an indicator that's showing where that damage is coming from. I could probably find that damage within 2 or 3 seconds to at least maybe help try to dodge the next hit. Versus this, I can outright dodge being destroyed, which I think is huge. Into our upgrade though, we have field maintenance. This one is your default. It's always solid. If you're playing combat engineer, we could pop into something like target jamming. So now it takes longer for you to get locked onto. So upgrades are passive. They're always present on the vehicle versus an equipment slot you have to activate manually. So this clears the vehicle's spotted marker sooner and reduces its heat signature in thermal imaging. I'll be honest, I like targeting jammer, but I think what I don't like about it is that it just makes it takes longer to lock on. You still get locked on. If this was an equipment slot and I could clear lock on, I'd like it more. So I would stick with field maintenance until I got something like reinforced plating because the IFV already moves very fast. Helping to increase its longevity, I think, is the biggest downfall of the IFV, right? It doesn't have the most health compared to a tank or armor, at least. This is quite the boon. Now, systems upgrade is also really good. Faster cooldowns enabled on equipment in slot 1 and increase range and duration on equipment in slot 2. So I can now detect enemies at a further distance, which is awesome. And I get my smoke up more often. So I would use field maintenance until I got reinforced plating. If I didn't like the speed decrease, I would go to systems upgrade regardless when I activated it or when I get it at IFV Vehicle Mastery 15, because it's really nice to have equipment slots 1 and 2 active on this thing at all times. Lastly here, you can't control your gunner equipment slots. Those are always set to be smoke wall and target designator, which are fine. Those are great. And then you can switch to the light machine gun or you can switch to the heavy machine gun or grenade launcher. Just like the tank, stick with the heavy machine gun. It is bueno. It helps out to give you a lot more punching power to unarmored vehicles, but also just to mow down infantry. Your main turret, if you stick with high explosive, already just does tons of damage to infantry. And last thing here is our anti-air. Your equipment, go with thermal blocking. It's because you're gonna be able to clear it from any time you deal with any kind of helicopters or any other engineer that's trying to pop you. And our upgrade system, you definitely want systems upgrade. Being able to move around is great. Enhanced loading is actually not bad, but your thing overheats. I want to be able to stay prevent from overheating. And target jamming, again, I'm not as keen as being locked on. I want the point of the anti-air vehicle is to dish out offensive damage as much as I can. Yeah, not being shot and destroyed is huge, but conversely, if I can kill something before it can do that, I'd rather just go with systems upgrade to help me out there. And our primary here can be multi-purpose, high velocity, or anti-armor. Multi-purpose just does fine enough. Like the high velocity is really going to help out way more with like a fighter jet. Anti-armor helps out with like a air transport or a fighter bomber, or the other strike fighter. What is this thing? You have the fighter jet and the attack jet. The high velocity helps against the attack jet, and then the armor piercing helps out with fighter jets and transport helis. So helicopters. So that is the difference there. I stick with multi-purpose because then I can just have a threat range across everything. So what I want to start here now is a conversation about some of the things you should know about when you're using like a tank or an IFV. This is true of everything. Now at the bottom, you're going to see the tank health. I'm just going to use the word tank because I use tanks a lot in this video. And those two little blips to the right and to the left are your damage state. The first one here is just a low, I think it's like a lower health state. And the last one is your critical damage state. Your tank will regenerate health as long as it is above critical damage state. It'll regenerate health faster if you have field maintenance. It'll regenerate your health even faster if you're a combat engineer. So you can stack up with a lot of health regen if you so wish. And what's to know here is that that starts pretty quickly. So having that above is good. Once you reach a critical damage state, your vehicle will typically stop moving depending on how that critical damage state was met, and it will cease to function for like a second or two. Then it will start to try to auto repair whatever is going on. It won't repair itself up to that second blip. If it's in a critical damage state, you'll have to start a manual repair. I think it will actually repair. It just takes a long time to actually start that process when you're at critical damage. But those blips are also speed breaks. If I had 1% health, it takes more to recover to that first damage blip. It takes less to recover from that second damage blip. And then it takes even less to recover to max. So they're kind of like speed breaks in that they will slow down the rate of recovery of your vehicle when they're below those points. It's a way to kind of throttle that repair so you can't just always auto repair back to full health super quick. It kind of helps balance the tanks out a little bit. Now, also, of course, worth noting is having a pocket engineer that sits underneath the tank, behind the tank, on the tank, whatever kind of situation, in the helicopter, in your IFV, hanging out with your anti-air vehicle, whatever it is, that will heal you when you're in those situations. Their repairing is going to be completely on its own situation. That's just repairing that is not locked to your damage state. Because an engineer might have their active ability and they're going to repair you faster. So just know that's kind of how the health of the tanks work, the vehicles work, and how repairing works as a whole. Next up is your ammunition. And I'm going to use tanks here because IFVs off the top of my head, it's like they start with like 20 rounds or something like that. Or actually, I think it's like some 30 something because every single set of rounds is like 17, something like that. Either way, tank is the easiest one to talk about here because when you spawn in a tank, you will start with 8 rounds of both your primary and your alternate ammo. It will say 1 out of 7, but that's 8 rounds, right? Because you have 1 in the chamber, 7 in reserve. When you rove out onto the battlefield, you will lose those rounds as you shoot, right? You're going to shoot the tank. It's going to shoot those rounds out. As you drop below 5, your tank will regenerate rounds every 10 seconds, assuming you don't have anything that will increase that time. Every 10 seconds, you'll see this. You'll notice how that little bar is going up. I've shot a round. You can hear in the background, you can hear the tank rechambering the round, but that little bar that's going from the bottom of the shell to the top of the shell, slowly filling it in, making it less and less opaque, or making it more and more opaque, is showing you that it's regenerating a round. So every 10 seconds. So in the middle of a tank fight, even if you're shooting and exchanging rounds, you're regenerating rounds in the background, but it will never go above 5. And that only starts when you drop below 5. So, for example, you roll out of the battlefield, you've got 8, you see a tank, you shoot 4 rounds as fast as you can, you're down to 4. Well, now it starts regenerating those rounds. It would have started regenerating the rounds at 5, actually. And as soon as you kill the tank, you've killed the tank, you have got 4 rounds, it now regenerates after 10 seconds, you've got 5 rounds. It stops regenerating because you're back to 5. But know this, you then have to go to a supply depot to regenerate those remaining 3 rounds. So you go to a supply depot and you regenerate your rounds, but you need to swap to the other ammo to regenerate both ammo types back to their max. If you don't, it'll only do that specific one. So this tells you that just be mindful of that alternate ammo. It's going to be huge for you. Just be mindful of your primary ammo and making sure that you're regenerating them at those ammo depots to get the most out of the longevity of your tank. So how do I get better? How do I get better at using these ground vehicles? Well, a lot of the rules of tanks and of IFVs are largely the same. The IFV has the benefit of being way faster than a tank. You can thunder down a road, you can thunder through a point, and you can use that to your advantage because you can really snap the neck of any engineer that's trying to target at you, right? Like if they're just trying to use that very first engineer rocket, they need to stay locked onto you for a little bit. Now, of course, with any vehicle, your front armor is the most armor. You'll take the least damage from the front. You'll take the second least damage from the rear, or sorry, from the sides, but you'll take the most damage from the rear and the top of your tank. In fact, I think the top is actually like 5% or 10% more than the rear. So just know those things. You always want to face your tank to the enemy. You always want to, if at the very least, face a side to an enemy. Let them hit a flank. And with the IFV, you can really pivot this bad boy around a lot to get a lot of really good application out of using your main turret, which you're going to be pretty much going forward and backwards through a lot of things, trying to just slam through a street, trying to make it so it's harder for people to lock onto you because you're moving so quick. Use that main battle turret because it can just thunder through with tons of rounds to kill infantry very quickly. Now, when you come to an enemy tank, use your speed again. I was going to try to use like a World War II like a comparison, like the T40, T60, and like the Tiger, but like I don't really want to go down there. But you can get the upper hand on a tank if you have the right loadout. If you have the missiles or the armor piercing rounds to do the damage you need, it's just going to take you a lot. And don't forget that even though you're using a high explosive for your primary, shoot the missile, switch back to your primary, and keep shooting with your primary. It won't do a ton of damage, but those little hits of damage, A, make it harder for the tank to aim at you because it's going to disrupt their turret. B, it does just little blips of damage. And then C, you are doing something in the downtime between that alternate ammo slot reloading, that rocket reloading. So just flex back into it and do that damage and completely finish off the tank. But try to be aggressive. Don't stand there in one place. You don't have the armor to do it. Just try to push into them, make it so that that turret has to swing to try to hit you, try to push away from wherever the turret's aiming. Be mindful. Don't just sit there and get blinders on and go head on for another tank. You're not going to win the exchange head on. Go for flanks, move around, try to hit out rear, do whatever you can. Utilize your speed. Now with a tank, we have a different situation. Tanks are girthy, right? They have all that armor, they have all that weight, they have all of that armament. Do not play a tank down at a point unless you have infantry support. If you want to play down at a point, make sure you're playing with someone on comms with you, or maybe you get lucky and there's just someone who's really good about jumping out and repairing you. And that happens to me a lot. When I play tank, there's someone I'm not even talking to them. They're really good about jumping out and repairing me, and they just hang out in the gunner. But if you jump into a point without infantry support, you're just going to get blown up. That is a fact. You're going to get 3 engineers can take you out so quickly, maybe even just 2 or 1 if they know what they're doing. And if you roll into a previously owned point, there's a good chance that point has mines on the ground. If you don't have a gunner in there, they're not going to be able to spot the mines. So you have to spend a lot of your time looking at the ground, which is another point of mine. When you are playing a tank and you are roving around, look at the ground. Keep your eyes kind of at the ground and at your mini map, but also kind of trying to get a good appraisal of the battlefield. You're kind of always, it's like when you're driving a vehicle, a tank. No, you're driving, you're looking forward, but you kind of occasionally look to your side view mirror and your rear view mirror, right? Do the same thing here. Look at the ground, look down at your mini map, look in front of you. Just kind of pop your eyes around. Keep yourself on a swivel. Being able to be in third person the majority of the time you're in your tank is crucial. You need to see if people are sneaking up on you. You need to see what's going on in a much wider field of view than just what is allowed your turret. So doing that is going to give you a lot of really good information. But when it does come, pedal to the metal time, it's time to shoot some damage, pop into turret mode, go into that first person mode, aim down sights, and try to use the turret as a guiding point on how to get that good proper tank shell drop. Meaning you have a crosshair, right? Well, the bottom of the crosshair, use that as a point. It doesn't have mil dots on it, but use that as a point of measurement. drag that T of the crosshair up and shoot. Try to get it to a point where you know it's going to land on a target, and then try and repeat that pattern. Don't just shoot aiming directly on. The tank has the most bullet drop in the game, so try to use that to the best of your advantage. Now, you also want to make sure too you're using your alternate ammo. If you just go to town with the multi-purpose, it's okay. I mean, you'll definitely win tank fights for sure. But you'll notice that once you switch that alternate ammo using armor piercing rounds, you're going to pop everything so quickly. You're going to feel great. And a lot of that strength comes with sitting back. Don't be the most aggressive tank commander on the field. You're just going to die quicker. And that doesn't help you out because that's okay. Your tank's now out of commission until it respawns. And the enemy just gained 2 death tickets. However many people were in that tank are now just killed. So hang back, bomb people from deep. Use your high explosive rounds, use your armor piercing rounds. You can really get 2 really good shots, 1 really good shot on a tank before rushing forward and being aggressive. That's a huge boon. That can immediately help you win a tank fight. And conversely to what I just said about hanging back, don't be afraid to rush. When I'm going into a tank fight, I get real spicy. I get up close and personal. I drive at an angle towards them so their turret has to move, and I quickly, sharply turn direction. I want their turret to be spinning more than it's aiming, because if it's spinning more than it's aiming, it's going to be less accurate. And I juke them. I'll go forward, I'll stop and reverse, but I'll then hold down the turbo button, which is shift on a PC. I think it's a right trigger or left trigger on a console, and start going the opposite direction again. I want that turret spinning as much as I can, because one missed shot in a tank fight can be the difference between you winning or losing. And if they got their first hit on you, then you're already at a massive disadvantage. It's why I recommend enhanced loading. It's why armor piercing rounds are crucial, because it reduces the amount of rounds you need to shoot either through reloading or the amount of damage that they do to win tank fights. And that's your biggest objective as a tank, is shutting down other armor faster than anyone else can at a range no one else can aside from air vehicles. So know how that all works, and support the infantry. You are a tank. You are not a one-man army. You need to be the one that there's a bunch of infantry on a point, hang back at the point and help defend that point. Stay either off the point or either on the point at the very back or just off the point where you've got better sight, and bomb into the point. You can do so much to help the flow of combat in a tank that it is not just simply using your turret. It's simply just being there through presence. If someone sees a tank on the battlefield, they run. They're going to hide because they know that thing just needs to shoot and it'll kill them. So you can simply be a deterrent to bigger pushes on a point by your presence. So use that to the best of your ability. Stay in third person so that you can see if anyone's sneaking up on you, and be clever about not staying on one point for too long. It's going to be easy to destroy you. Displace, move to another point, start shooting down range, try to get as much shells out there as you can. So hopefully this gives you a better idea on how to play the IFV, how to play the tank. If you're playing with the anti-air, find a spot, hunker down, shoot an air thing. It's pretty straightforward there. But if you have any other questions about playing with the tank, or you have other really big tips about IFV or tank, let it be known in the comment section below. There's always different ways to play these. I've seen people play them very passively and they've gotten tons of kills. I've seen people play them super aggressively, way more than I would ever play them, and they've gotten tons of kills and they've helped push points. So let it be known in the comment section below if you've got good tips for those vehicles. Next up, we'll be talking about the helicopters, and I'm going to do a video on map knowledge just to give you a better idea on how to play the game to help you get some success. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.